Good morning, everyone, to our staff, to our guests, also those that will be listening at a later time. Welcome to the Economic Development Authority meeting of Portsmouth, Virginia, October 19th. As usual, we've transitioned since Mr. Moore has transitioned into a different position. Brian and I talked, and we didn't see any need to change the way we do things. So as secretary, he'll take us through the agenda as Robert did. Thank you.
Okay.
Roll call.
Thank you, Chair. Roll call. Mr. Barber.
Here.
Ms. Drury. Mr. Mitchell. Mr. Brown.
Here.
Mrs. Saunders Smith.
Here.
Ms. Smith.
Here.
And Chair Smith.
Here.
Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Minutes.
Next item on the agenda is your minutes. We had a busy month in September, so we have minutes for the 3 meetings that were conducted. In need of a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote, unless there's any discussion. Okay, roll call vote. Mr. Barber.
Aye.
Mr. Brown.
Aye.
Saunders Smith.
Yes.
Ms. Smith.
Yes.
Chair Smith.
Yes.
And the motion passes. Next item on the agenda is your financials for the month of September. And we do have Ms. Flora Brescia with the Finance Department, who is going to give you, I think, just kind of an overview presentation, not a deep dive. You did have the entire packet in with your meeting information that was sent out last week, but she's going to touch, I think, at a high level. Ms. Brescia.
Thank you. What we have here is in this screen is we have the statement of net position, which is equivalent to balance sheet, and it's showing all the resources, financial resources available for EDA authority to successfully operate. It's a comparative report comparing fiscal year 2021 ending June 30th, 2001, and the first quarter of fiscal year 2022. It apparently looks practically, there is no much change, but what it needs to be mentioned is that they have better cash flow. And if you see on the change column, there is almost 900,000 increase in cash, which is attributed to, I believe, to a property sold in Victory Boulevard. Practically everything stays the same. It looks in good health. Well, what I can see here under property held for sale are the cushion of the EDA authority. So if you go a little bit down here, so and if you see net position, which is practically how much, what's the EDA's position, is that there is an increase for 170,000 compared to last year. And the next page, this is an income statement report, which practically is showing what happened just only this year. And we put a column there that shows that how was it last year at the end of fiscal year 2021, June 30th, and what's this quarter, year to date, only this year only. And practically, that's the only activity that happened is the land, the saleable land, which is, I mentioned before, which is Victory Boulevard Properties. It was a profitable sale for 234,000, and under operation expenses, they don't have that much. The only thing that I can see is that the bulk of the expenses are under development grants. The bottom line of this is that it's profitable just this year only for 170,000 increase in compared to last year net position. I mean, this is just an overview. If you have any question, I can answer to details.
Do we have any properties that we have to close
We do. We have a few that are still under contract and are in the due diligence and permitting process. And we did have a recent closing that we'll update you on in a few minutes as well that just occurred. So what we can do is at your next meeting, come back. We have that comprehensive listing of our properties, and we can go through and provide you an update with where we are in the process on those that have not closed. So we'd be happy to do that. Are there any other questions or items for discussion with regard to the financial report? Okay, Flora, thank you. We'll go ahead and send that to audit. Next item is old business. We do have a number of things to update you on. The first of which is the Financial Services Ad Hoc Committee, which consists of your two appointed members, Ms. Drury and Mr. Brown. They did meet on October 8th, and there was some very productive discussion about your investments and how we should handle those. What I'm going to do is allow for Mr. Brown to discuss what the resolution was from that meeting.
Okay, thank you. We met on October 8th to discuss the best return policy with banking regarding to the city's money. Currently, we have $1.7 million in town bank earning interest at a rate of 0.07% annually. After looking at several options presented to us, the best option that was afforded to us was to have the city treasurer manage the money for the EDA in the city, in the state and statewide cash pool account. That will earn us 1.2% annual interest, so already increase our annual interest. It'll keep our money safer. The city treasurer, he's not incurring any additional burden by managing this money. It's part of what he does, part of what he specializes in. And he can make sound and solid investments on behalf of the EDA and help the money grow. But in addition to using the city treasurer to maintain the EDA's money, we wanted to also keep a portion in the bank, correct me if I'm mistaken, keep a portion in the bank to manage activities that we have to control, such as grant funding and some different incentives that we're looking at controlling ourselves. But for the most part, the recommendation was to allow the treasurer the responsibility and safety of the funds to be responsible for the safety of the funds in the state cash pool.
Question, how much do you need for liquidity purposes?
That didn't come up in the meeting. Actually, what did come up was the fact that we're going to be receiving additional income once the sale of the casino is finalized. So we don't want to put that in the same low interest bearing account that we currently have. And the solution to move the money to the treasurer seemed like the best bet for the city. He maintains all of the other city funds, and I had questions during the meeting when it was presented to us that since our funds were going to be pooled with other resources, if they ever fell short in another area, would it affect our funding? And the answer was no. So I think that was the catch-all that we needed to.
So what I heard also, maybe this kind of helps what Neil's asking, the monies that we gonna have for the programs, I heard you mention that, and maintenance, the kinds of grass cutting and things like that, that's what's gonna be kept easy access,
Right,
versus we don't have to go through them for that.
exactly. And
That's
we
what
would
you
have to come up with some kind of strategy to decide what amount we retain and what amount we invest with the treasurer.
Yeah, it would be staff's recommendation that you maintain an account, your current account, with some funds to cover your typical monthly operating expenses, which would include, any grant funding that you would be providing to the business community.
Determine that amount.
The amount has not been set. It would be our recommendation that it would be sufficient to cover your monthly expenses. At any point in time, should there be a need for additional funds, you could do a wire transfer from the treasurer's account, where the majority of your funds would be held, to the operating account. So that, that amount could range from $50,000 to $150,000, $250,000. it's really determined based on what the typical monthly expense would be and the need. And that's certainly something that, we could establish today, or we could come back with a recommendation, at a later date.
Yeah, I think it'd be good to come back and recommend, because y'all know the details.
And
So
we'll
that
have to
we-
look at the budget and what's projected to be
Right.
spent by in-house as opposed to.
That's right.
But it does remove a redundant step, I would say. And if the city treasurer pays all of the bills on behalf of the EDA, and then the EDA has to write reimbursement checks to the city treasurer, it removes that step of redundancy as far as paying out bills. And
It simplifies things on many different levels. I think it provides a more secure means of managing your finances, and it certainly does, I think, I won't speak for Flora and the finance department, but I think it streamlines things from a reimbursement standpoint for expenses.
Practically, it's gonna be the same, because we still manage, and you just reimburse us. What this does, it helps EDA in collecting that money.
Mhm.
That's the step why we're taking this. Because right now you have $200,000 not collected so far from Renaissance Auto. So that means that it gives more authority
Leverage, yes.
to the treasurer, so we can get, the money in the house.
Mhm.
So practically, it's not gonna change anything, same is gonna be the same. If you'd like to keep, operating and you would like to open, let's say, right now, it's not like you have that much money available, so you can distribute in different CDs and stuff, and the rate is not that high. But you can always decide that this is how much we're gonna use for operating checking account, and you can always put it aside, let's say, money market for reserves or for something that you'd like to have it in your hand.
Right.
But nothing's gonna change, it's same. I mean, it is the same requirement for the city treasurer to maintain or administer EBS money.
Yes.
All it does, it helps EDA.
Okay.
Mhm.
I agree that I think it should go into the treasurer's department. I had a couple questions. One, when you said put it in his account, I get 1 point, whatever the interest is.
0.12%.
Is this, daily interest, or is this being into
Annual.
some time, but is this being put into, something long range? Or it's just what it would normally be in the bank? It's not is he investing in something that would be a long range thing?
This moving it to him would not be an investment.
Okay, it would just
But
be
it would just
him
be a-
handling.
It would just earn a higher interest. He can invest it after his move, but I think what you're asking is, by him holding it, it's going to be 1.2%, as opposed to bank holding it at 0.7% or
Right.
0.07%.
Right. So it's no investment as far as putting it on the stock and it's, stays there for 2 years, and there's none of that kind of thing. It's just a holding
No,
thing.
unless we wanted to consider that,
Okay.
but right now, no.
Yeah,
That's
but the
something
rates
that
are not
maybe,
that great anyway, anywhere, so I can see the point of not even doing that.
Right.
And then secondly, do we have, one of the business incentives committee's goals was to work with a bank to help us to finance small businesses at a better rate.
You've kind of jumped to the next.
Oh, it's the next one?
Yeah, the
So
business incentive is different from what they were tasked. So we'll get to it. Hold that.
Okay,
Oh, let me interrupt. Her question is probably the same as Mrs. Drury's was on the 8th about the
Okay.
relationship with the banks,
right.
for us moving the money out of the bank to the treasurer. And he had a good response that the bank you don't really have a relationship with the bank other than a business relationship with the bank. And if the business relationship is only bringing us 0.07, and another business relationship will bring us 0.12, that second relationship is the better relationship.
Yeah, but I was wondering if, because the treasurer's office is holding not only our monies, but other monies, is this something that we could talk to them about, is to assisting us and helping with the relationship with the bank so that we will have some leverage with helping small businesses?
That's certainly something we can look into. We do have a number of financial institutions that we are in communication with that have an interest in providing small business lending opportunities in Portsmouth. and we've had ongoing conversations with our existing financial institution and others as well. Dollar Bank is one that has approached us recently about assisting in some entrepreneurial programs, and we can certainly provide additional information specifically to your question, but I would see that being kind of a different discussion item from the treasurer's management of the EDA's financial accounts. Okay. Are there any other questions or discussion points for this topic? I think what we need is some direction on how the EDA would like to proceed, so that we can engage the treasurer's office if that is your desire.
A consensus.
I think we just move forward with it, with the exception of just trying to figure out how much money we need to have on a cash flow basis, for liquidity.
You okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So this be a consensus to move.
Very good. Well, we will do some. We will come back at your next meeting with a recommendation for how much money is maintained in that operating account, I guess we'll call it.
Oh, I had one other question. If we had to move it out, what's the procedure? Is it like you give them so much notice if something came up and,
Essentially, I think it would be a type of wire account transfer from the
Just a
treasurer's account
request.
to your operating account.
okay.
There may even be the ability to have that payment made directly from the treasurer's office. And that could occur in an instance, perhaps we're looking to make a property acquisition.
So, just to add something. There is zero balance accounts. So what happened is that every money that you have available, you put in investment. Zero balance account means that every time you need to pay something, the bank transfers directly. So still you get the money, interest, and still you pay the bills, there won't be an issue. And the operating expenses practically are approved because you have a budget. What's your revenue, what's your expenditure? And you know practically how much money you will need to operate, unless there's exception, which are, stuff that are not predictable or something that out of norm. So it's not gonna be an issue because we operate same for other institution or for other funds, it's the same. So we keep all the money, the treasurer keeps all the money and put it there. We get the best of the interest the bank has. And then every time we need to pay, they just transfer money and pay that bill. Still you get the maximum of interest and everything. They have such a good structure, how they operate. It's pretty good. They have good knowledge and pretty well management of those funds. It's not gonna be an issue at all. And on top of that, every time you need something, you have bank signatures. That every time you'd like to move money from this to money market or to some other investment, you have full authority. Nobody's gonna pick up the authority, to move the money. Because still EDA is the owner of this money.
And I bet it's the same bank.
Yeah, depends what you choose, but right now, it's better, to get the best of it. Every penny you have, you get the interest. It is not that high, but still, you get the best of it.
Well, very good. Unless there are any other questions, we'll move on to the next item with the direction you've provided. The Economic Development Incentive Program Ad Hoc Committee, which met on October 5th to discuss establishing some incentives guidelines. And I'm going to ask Ms. Smith to share some of the information. She and Vice Chair Mitchell were there at the meeting, but Ms. Smith, if you want to share your
I was supposed to meet
thoughts.
again this afternoon, but I see Mr. Mitchell is not here, or Mr.
I think our meeting is actually scheduled for later in the week, if I'm not
I
mistaken.
thought it was going to be after this meeting.
We sent out a change.
We did? Didn't see it.
So we will certainly reconvene, but if you would like to update the
Okay, yeah, we just discussed what kind of incentives that we wanted to set parameters for as to what we could offer to a business and kind of leverage with them as to how much money they were bringing into the city and how many jobs and kind of to a proportion of the amount to the amount they're bringing in to the number of jobs that they're bringing in. And and what kind of incentives we could offer in the form of either, tax breaks or what, and we were supposed to come back and discuss what kind of parameters we were going to set up for that. I don't think we decided on anything concrete. We just kind of discussed what the committee was going to be about, and then we were going to get together again to discuss those options.
Just to kind of add to that recap, what we found is, in addition to the local incentive program that the EDA has previously established, and then the new programs that we're going to be providing for startups and entrepreneurial oriented businesses, from time to time there is a need to have a special grant program where we can incentivize projects that we feel are worthy of kind of going above and beyond what we have in place currently. Economic development incentive grants are things that are offered in other localities in the region. In the past, the EDA has provided on a case-by-case basis additional grant funding. We haven't really had a set process or established guidelines for how that is done, but that's something that we feel needs to be considered. We would look at things like capital investment, job creation, so forth, to determine how those incentives were provided. So what we'll be doing is reconvening and trying to come up with an established set of guidelines and parameters for how we would incentivize a project. It's quite often that our partners at the state level will make some grant funds available, but they do require a local match. In that instance, that is where the EDA would be potentially looking to participate through this type of program, or doing it solely on our own if we felt it was worthwhile and worthy of the investment. So we will ensure that we've got a meeting established, and we'll recirculate the dates so that both yourself and Mr. Mitchell are able to attend.
Would these incentives be looking at businesses that are already here that we are hoping to incentivize, or is it also including new businesses that we would like to come to Portsmouth, and that would be an incentive? Or is it looking at both, or one or the other?
So this would be for new businesses that we were looking to attract to the city, and potentially businesses that were in an expansion mode, where based on what they were looking to do, may require some sort of financial incentive. So it could be both. And I think those are things that we will need to discuss with the ad hoc committee and then the board overall. Any other questions? Okay. The next item is the Port Host Community Grant. We wanted to give you an update on the grant program. Again, this is for the Port Host grant that's offered through the state. We advised you at your last meeting that we had an application for a business that is relocating and expanding into Portsmouth, and that is for a property on Shipwright Street in the West Norfolk area of the city. The city council did authorize that application on the 28th of September, and it was submitted to the state on October 1st. We are seeking $1 million to assist with infrastructure improvements on the property. And this is a company that specializes in the ship repair and fabrication industry, and they also have an interest in expanding into the offshore wind industry as well. Our hope is that within the next 90 days, we'll have a response back from the state with regard to the application.
Is there a matching requirement, and who would be responsible for providing the match if there is?
There is a match requirement. In the case of this program, the match is provided entirely by the applicant. So there's no city money, EDA money involved, and it's a one-to-one match. So they would be providing that match. So we'll keep you posted on the the progress with that. Are there any other questions? Okay. Next item is Lineage Logistics. We wanted to update you all on their official grand opening and ribbon cutting. You should have received an email last week with an invitation for the event, which is scheduled for October 27th at 10:30. That's the arrival time. The event and ribbon cutting will take place at 11 a.m. that morning, and there will be an opportunity to tour the facility after the ribbon cutting. We will recirculate that invitation to you. I would encourage you to RSVP if you plan to attend. It's really a pretty phenomenal facility. It's a fully automated 160,000 square foot state-of-the-art cold storage building. I will caution you, it's a little bit chilly inside, so you may want to bring a jacket with you, but it is a fantastic investment here in the city, and we hope you're all able to attend on the 27th.
Yeah, I received it, but then I received a recall of the message, so I didn't respond because it was recalled. So
Yeah, so that was Mr. Moore's fault. He said it, and then I resent it again, so you should actually have two. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna send the invitation out again, and then please respond to that.
okay.
It'll be the same exact message.
Yeah, if we had responded, to either one of them, to the first one, they did have already responded back.
Yeah.
You know, welcoming you and.
They should both have worked, but I
Right.
just need to update some information on that one.
Mhm.
So that was Mr. Moore's fault. That's why Mr. Moore said that.
Mr. Moore. Oh, that Mr. Moore. Okay.
That's right. So.
Oh, all right.
So be on the lookout for another email this week, and you can respond to that link that's embedded in that. And we do hope you are all able to attend it. It should be a very good event, and look forward to doing the tour with you as well. So I think you'll be impressed. They're doing a really phenomenal job of hiring out at Lineage, and they're already up and running. So it'll be a busy place, I'm sure, on the 27th.
Do they offer like a citywide job fair or anything to recruit employees from the city for this business?
They have. I'm going to turn over to Ms. Krim to let you know a little bit about some of the efforts that we've made in partnership with them, because they have participated in some of our efforts, and they've had some others as well. But Pam, can you kind of speak to what we've done from a job fair standpoint?
Yes, Lineage has participated in our hiring event in July. They are also working with us on a partnership with hiring events, and actually a partnership with the Portsmouth Public Schools with our graduating seniors and job exploration and shadowing at the facility.
Are they part of the Portsmouth Network program as well?
Yes, they are
Great.
part of the Portsmouth Network program.
Great, thank you, Ms. Krim. Okay, we do have some project updates that we wanted to provide to you this morning. The first, as we mentioned, I think earlier in the meeting, is another closing that occurred just yesterday at 3125 Victory Boulevard. This is a property that the EDA has had in its ownership for a number of years. A little bit of a challenge with respect to development because there are some wetlands on the property, but we found a end user who's able to develop the property to support their existing business, which is Home Improvements is the name of the company. They do home repair and construction and expanding Portsmouth business. So they closed yesterday. So this is another property off of your inventory, and we'll bring some additional funds to your accounts and coffers. The sale price on that property was $60,000. So that did close yesterday.
Refamiliarize them with that area.
So 3125 Victory Boulevard is going to be to the south east of Greenwood Drive on the Victory corridor. It's kind of the industrial stretch of the road there. So it would be fairly far to the southeast from the casino site. And that's, I think, just past Gus Lane, if that provides a landmark for you.
Yeah.
And it's a vacant piece of property. It's wooded, I think, at this time for the most part. Any questions on that?
Only question I have is you sold it for 60? What was the cost when we purchased it, or did we?
We'd have to go back and determine that. I don't know the acquisition price. That's something we could look at and follow up with you.
I believe this was the whole block there was developed as a business park. And this was kind of the bottom piece that wasn't sold at the time.
Oh.
So, and it ended up with a large wetlands area. And we'd had, 2 or 3 starts and stops with prior deals on it. So I think it's a huge win to sell it for $60,000 and have it developed for taxable use.
It wasn't a loss, it was clear profit.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to turn over to Mr. Moore for the next update, which I think is pretty significant.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Donahue. So as you know, or hopefully you've seen, the casino developers are going gangbusters, if you will, out of sight. Dirt is certainly moved. The lake itself, which is the movement of the BMP that is in the center of the property, is underway to move to the corner of Victory and Cavalier. That lake will be about 14 feet deep. I think they're down to like 8 now already. What they're doing is, because the BMP has to remain operational for TCC, they're moving part of it, keeping that running, and then moving the other part. So we anticipate that will be done by the end of next month. And then here soon we should see steel going up right around in January. And so very excited about where they are. Still waiting on lottery board from a license standpoint, but our partners are certainly taking the risk and moving forward and going ahead and building a facility as we speak. We meet weekly as an executive team to make sure that they have everything they need and are meeting all the requirements for site plan approval, permit approval, so forth. We anticipate having that by the end of this month, no later than November 1st, having site plan approval. And certainly have to say thank you and great job to the rest of the executive team, planning, Bob Baldwin, planning department, James Wright, in engineering and so forth, because without them, we couldn't get this together. So we're excited about where they are and what they're doing. And you can see here soon, you're going to see upwards of 400 people on site working at one time. And that's going to be a great sight. So, any questions?
Do you have any idea when the lottery board will make a decision?
We don't. Lottery has until April of next year, April 22 to make that official. But I will tell you is that I will be watching intently every lottery board meeting between now and then. Their next one is October the 26th, if I'm not mistaken. So again, we'll just keep our eye out. But we anticipate there shouldn't be an issue, just because they have been approved for the sports betting. And if you haven't heard, sports betting is turned into a $1 billion industry here in Virginia. So we anticipate, they'll be able to obtain the next license.
So question, so is that how they operate? I mean, you don't know when things going to come up on the agenda, or because I thought that we were kind of looking at a time frame where it would come up. So you, from what you said, you don't really know when it might come up.
We don't know because it's all in their review time. We know when we asked for it. We know when we made suggestions. But as far as when it's going to come up on the agenda, not exactly. They have, per the legislature, they have up until April 22 to make a decision. We don't anticipate it taking that long. But they've been, I think, I won't say in recess, but they haven't had a meeting for a few months now. And also, there's a ramp up from a staffing standpoint, because there's a lot of research that goes into these applications. While lottery, I don't think lottery was fully staffed to begin with, but then you add these 5 applications that will be, major economic drivers for 5 localities. I think they've got to do some staffing up as well, but we hope and anticipate that it will be before the end of the year. And that's why we have the lobbyists up there and so forth, trying to make sure they stay in time.
And I would hope that concerning our movement on it and our progress, that they would note that, and maybe because our little conversations with the Mr. Bloom, and they're kind of, I know, because they probably got some communication going too with them, that they're kind of optimistic that it won't be long.
Correct. And they've shared that optimism with the lobby board. It's just a matter of, again, officially going through that process. So again, we were one of the first applications to go in. I can tell you that for sure. And we've been kind of first out of the gate from the start of this thing. So we're hoping to have some good news in the next 30, 60 days, and including a closing. And then the only thing you have to figure out is what you want to spend your money.
But meanwhile, I guess in my circles, talking to folks, there's folks that actually think, and I heard a number of figure from somebody that we've put up $23 million. So, I know that, but, and those things, kind of don't help sometimes when the folks that think they know, or some of it's fake news, but that's happening. So,
for the record, I think, for this meeting, certainly for those listening at some point, there is not any money of any type, no type of incentive, no type of infrastructure dollars, no type of anything that have gone into from the city to the developer for this project. There is a licensing fee of $15 million. That is all on the developer. And actually, the statute associated with casino gaming states that the developer cannot receive any type of incentive from the locality. That includes, in our definition, enterprise zone. So they are coming in all private funding. This is a completely private deal that happens to be on EDA property. So it is a win-win when you look at it that way. It's not costing us anything other than the time to wait for it to be built, and for you all to catch that.
Yeah, we did infrastructure developments on them and a bunch of stuff at their expense.
And what I will tell you, you are getting infrastructure improvements at the intersection of what is Cavalier and 264 and Victory Boulevard. But I will tell you, that was the study associated with the casino itself and the casino development itself, casino hotel. But at the same time, there is an additional study going on that looks at an entire, basically from Airline Boulevard down to George Washington, because you can imagine everything is going to change. Property is going to change, things of that nature. Development is happening. So we've got to take that into account completely. So all of these things are in the works right now, and you all will reap the benefits of that going forward. So it's not costing the city anything.
right, and we've authorized their movement. So if things do fall through, it's all totally on them. It still won't come back. And I'm just bringing this up to be said for the public, because I'm hearing too much, and folks want to argue about, that fact that, I heard $23 million recently. And I said, well, where'd that come from? Well, I read it in the paper. So it's nonsense. So that's another reason why I want you to clarify and speak that for those that do listen to our broadcast.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Any other questions? Right. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Moore. We do have one last item under old business, which is the business investment program update. If you recall, this is the restructuring and relaunch of your local incentive program. And in addition to that, the creation of a new Smart Start business development grant for startups and entrepreneurial establishments. So we have been working since we presented that to you late summer to finalize the guidelines and actually develop the application documents themselves. So our plan is to have that before you in advance of your November meeting for the EDA's adoption at that time, so that it will be in place beginning January 1. That'll also put us in a position to begin marketing the program, which we intend to do fairly heavily to make sure that the business community is fully aware of these new programs, really kind of cutting edge programs that you really don't find things like this in really many other areas of the state. So really excited to have those to offer, especially the startup program. We think that's going to enable a number of small businesses that are in the process of launching or expanding to take advantage of that come January. So we will have that back before you in November. Are there any questions?
I think the last time we met, the city was hiring or looking at a marketing firm, I think, for the city itself. Would the advertisement be a part of what they would do, or we would be doing it by ourselves?
Well, fortunately, Mr. Moore now, in part of his new role, I think has some oversight in that process. So I'm going to allow for him to respond to your
So I would ask Ms. Thompson, could you repeat your question?
The last time we met, we were talking about the city hiring a new marketing company, I assume. And I said that the advertisement for this program, could that be a part of their marketing?
Almost definitely. So what we're going to do is the Davis company out of Virginia Beach has been awarded the contract from the city. So we have a plan, myself, Ms. Wiedenbaugh, and Ms. Sharon Harvard, who is the interim director of marketing communications, setting up a meeting to sit down and talk about the overall strategy for marketing the city of Portsmouth. And this will be a part of it. Certainly, we're not going to wait until those meetings and things to happen. So we're already putting the plan together through Ms. Crabb and Ms. Crone to make sure that when this goes live and you all are ready to go, that this is hitting the ground running. Same with Ms. Osborne. But yes, all of this, everything from a marketing standpoint when it comes to the city, Davis is really focusing on from a standpoint of image. There are other things like this program that you said you can put in there.
Thank you. And I'll just add to that, we have had considerable interest and a number of conversations and discussions in the run up to January with the city's business community. There's a lot of interest. There are a lot of folks, I think, that are going to be in line to apply, both from the real estate improvement grant side and the startup side of the program. So I think there's going to be a good number of businesses ready to participate in the program beginning in January. Fairly certain of that. Okay, Chair, I do believe we're in need of a closed meeting.
I move that we go into closed session pursuant to code section 2.2-3711 subsection A-8 for the purposes of consulting with legal counsel regarding specific legal matters requiring provision of legal advice by such counsel, specifically regarding the collection of debts owed to the EDA pursuant to Section B, Code of Virginia, subsection 2.2-3711, subsection A.3, for the purposes of discussing acquisition of real property where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body, specifically regarding Portsmouth redevelopment and housing authority properties.
We're in need of a second.
A second.
Great, thank you, Mr. Brown. Any discussion? Roll call vote. Mr. Barber,
Aye.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mrs. Saunders Smith,
Yeah.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
and Chairman Smith.
Yes.
We are in closed session.
Yeah.
This conference will now be recorded.
Are you ready now? Okay. I hereby move that each commissioner certify that to the best of her knowledge, one, that only public business matters lawfully exempt from open meeting requirements under the Freedom of Information Act, and two, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed meeting just concluded.
I believe we're in need of a second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Mr. Barber,
Aye.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mrs. Saunders Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
and Chairman Smith.
Yes.
Passes. We are in an open session. Next item is item submitted by board members. Chair.
Okay, so I'll be last.
I just wanted to ask, I know that we had our joint meeting, our strategic planning meeting, we had the planning department here and had a discussion, and I think we sort of decided we'd like to have them come back. Is there any plans for that?
They have offered, and we can certainly reach back out and make the request and try to see when we can have them back before you. I think initially we talked about some of the zoning ordinance and regulatory aspects, but there was a discussion about process.
Process, yes.
What I would tell you if I could, Chair, on the 26th of October council meeting, City Council has asked that Mr. Baldwin provide a thorough discussion of said process. So I would tell you to either attend or watch the council meeting, as a council has had an interest in that as well. So
Is that gonna be in a work session or?
that will be in the work session, the 26th.
Very good.
But I think we still
Oh, sure.
need our own.
Sure. I think this will be the preface for that. But I will tell you that council has asked the same questions, very similar questions that you all have asked, and are intent on having those questions answered on that Tuesday. I think that certainly starts the conversation that the EDA may want to have on.
So that being said, we still want to set up.
So we will reach out to Mr. Baldwin and staff and see when we can get them following the their meeting on the 26th back for one of your regular meetings to have a follow-up discussion.
On the 26th meeting, the work session meeting, are they just giving you what the procedure is? Are they required to give you written steps as to how the process would go for a new business?
So what I will tell you is they're going to go through the process. I believe council will ask for that. But that council has asked for a presentation on the process from start to finish. And then, as this council, I'm sure will ensure they will ask for additional information and more than likely, that process anyway.
Bless you. Anyone else? Items? Well, I just want to say that I have, reached out to the housing authority because I'm concerned, and as I know you are too, about us kind of communicating and working together, if possible, since they have a large inventory of property, not anything significant in size, but there are some that could be possibly, we could work together, or we could actually, they could convey to us again. And I think it would be helpful if, we all foster and develop a relationship with them. They're not necessarily interested in economic development. They just have acquired those properties because of their existence and the purpose of them, their role in the city. So, but it's a time that we can talk to them and just see what they have and what, so we can develop a working relationship. I know we have Miss Winston as a member, ex officio member of our board, but I think it would be good to sit down and talk with their entire board so that we can meet them, and if there's any questions or any concerns that either one of the bodies have, since we're the bigger landowners in the city, we ought to be doing that. So if that's okay with you all, I'd like to, ask staff to work on that, set that up.
Well, I certainly agree on that because certainly we're not competitors. We're
Right.
all working in the same direction.
Right.
So obviously, I think we should shoot it to do that.
Right. And that's what they said, that they don't want to compete with us because that's not their, responsibility. But they agreed that, we can work together on some things. So, okay, so having, at least I've heard, have everybody agree or?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Okay, so we'll work together with you to identify a time frame for that and get that conversation.
Because I don't think we normally meet with them, do we? Like we do with council. Yeah, right.
Not unless there's some.
So this will be a first.
Not unless there's a project associated with something that they have.
Right.
And it's a meeting.
I do have a question. I met with an organization that was inquiring about the DAC Center, the DAC Center on Hartford, I believe.
Yeah,
It's vacant.
that's the school's property.
Who owns it and how can they acquire it?
That's the school's
School's
property.
Okay.
Yeah. And I don't know whether they've got any plans for it. I know they've been offered, because it's been closed for a while, but I don't know whether they have any.
I just came to mind, just met with somebody over the weekend and they was inquiring about using it. How could they get it to use it for a shelter?
Yeah.
And I told them I would ask them
Right.
to get back with them, but thank you.
Yeah, I would suggest maybe you would talk to a school board member first about it and to get some push. When you go before them, it'll have to come through them, but they won't handle it. But they at least, you want them to support whatever group comes to them for selling it, for purchasing it. That is okay.
Mr.
Yes,
Chairman, I know that we had discussed in our strategic planning meeting, and the high priority was, sort of a strategic acquisition strategy, and I just hope that, we keep that in the forefront of our mind and ask staff to, do whatever is necessary to identify potential acquisitions.
Right.
The same way we're acquiring this 420 and 1431.
Mm-hmm.
If we can acquire that building,
You mean which building?
DAC Center,
Oh, the DAC
Yeah.
Center?
is that a possible acquisition for
For economic development?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I would say, as I typically do, you want to talk about specific properties in closed session.
Right.
But I think that's something you can discuss, and now, knowing now what we know, as far as the request is concerned, look into it, and maybe have, again, at your next meeting, a closed session.
Okay.
Right, but we also want to be in consensus whether or not we want that to be looked into, because, and since it's out there, he's brought it up. We just, the other members here, whether or not that's something that you want to pursue. I'm waiting for you to nod consensus.
I think I would say let's table it for another meeting. It's just something that was brought up based on the meeting that I had, but I didn't want it to go this far. So let's
Okay, all right, I'll take that.
I would just recommend allowing staff at a future meeting to come back with a acquisition plan with some identified potential candidate.
Well, that's what I was getting at, but he just said he wants to hold, so.
We'll do a comprehensive assessment.
So
Yeah, we want to see how it fits.
you can't do that if the consensus doesn't tell you to do that. I feel you, but he just said wait. So
No,
that
I
means,
think what he was saying is wait on that single property.
right. Well, I know, but that's the question.
But I think there are two different questions. I think what the question, the overall question is, should the staff come back to us with a comprehensive review of potential properties for acquisition and make recommendations to us? And that could include that property, and it may not include that property. But it would be up to staff to review what the options are and report back.
Is that what you meant? Because I didn't get that.
We would recommend coming back with options, multiple options for your consideration.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Yet to be identified property.
Right. Okay, yeah, it just needed to be spelled out.
On a different subject, I have one question, and I don't know that it comes under our authority or not, but is there a group or anything that works to preserve businesses that are already established that are considering leaving Portsmouth, that we work to try to keep them in Portsmouth?
Yep, that's economic development.
Yeah, that's their job.
Because, I've heard of businesses that say, well, I'm relocating, getting out of Portsmouth. And I feel like there's something that should be done to try to give an incentive to these people to stay in Portsmouth. So I haven't really heard a lot of discussion about it.
Well, that's what part of our incentive plan can do.
Keeping the businesses here instead of bringing in the new businesses.
Well, that's part of economic development in general, but specifically one of our focuses of our department is business retention and certainly expansion if that opportunity presents itself. And we have staff, really the entire team, but we have staff specifically assigned to business retention efforts and ensuring that we have a very good understanding of the business environment and where our businesses are in terms of their needs. So we would specifically be reaching out to businesses and having those conversations with them. Our hope and our goal would be, if there's a business that is having issues, is considering closing or relocating, that they would be in communication with our office to advise us of what their status is, so that we can assist them, whether that be through available incentives, perhaps there's some sort of business support that they need, which we can provide through our department. Certainly our goal is to retain any existing business with the ultimate objective of helping them expand in Portsmouth. And that is something that we spend a great deal of our time. I mean, that's our existing business community. We never want to lose a business in any way whatsoever. So we are doing that. On average, we meet with in excess of, 30 existing businesses per month. We now have additional staff members on board on the team that we hope can increase that level of contact with the business community. And if there's somebody specifically that
Okay.
you've been in communication with that we should be talking to, if we haven't reached them and touched them yet, please share that with us. We make every effort to be available to assist in any which way we can. And if there's, something we can't assist with directly, we will work to put them in touch with somebody who can.
Okay,
So
very good.
I hope that answers your question.
Yes,
and it's something
absolutely.
we're very much committed to.
Thank you.
Any other items? Comments, questions? Going once, going twice?
Okay, Chairman, we have no report backs for you this month.
Okay. So again, thank you everyone for faithfully coming out this morning, and a lot of things we've gotten done, and we've got a lot before us. But with that, I'll adjourn this meeting. Thank you.